You know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports.
When it comes to
Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
I need to talk a little sports with you, Ags. David Nuño here with TexAgs Radio. Billy Liucci here on TexAgs Radio. Olin Buchanan.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
Been in college baseball for a while now, but I've never experienced anything like 12th man.
The other schools are like, we're freaking Texas A&M, man. Like,
this one's special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
The epitome of what this team has done, right? Gavin homers, Jace homers, Braden homers, Chris Cortez, 100-mile-an-hour fastball.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
All right, welcome into TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. I am currently in Juno Beach, Florida, as it's, of course, raining here. This is my Rollo Insurance Studio. Olin Buchanan, our Heisman Trophy voter, is at the real Rollo Insurance Studio in College Station, Texas, as we get ready for all the greatness that's going to be happening this weekend with the College World Series. It is the Go Hour presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. OB, good morning, buddy.
Good morning. Hey, I would think even in the rain, Juno Beach must be magnificent.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. We walked on the beach for a few minutes yesterday, and of course the thunderstorm started, so we had to get back inside. So no beach time for us. It's all about the baseball team, as our travel crew has already made their way. They're driving. I'm not sure how big that travel party is. I know that Zane and Bronny are on there. We'll talk to them a couple different times throughout the show here. But I'm really interested on what Schloss tomorrow says could be the Game 1 starter, which I think is going to be Ryan Prager, what he does with Game 2, and so on, OB.
Yeah, I would think Prager's a no-brainer, right? Because you have to win that first game. You have such an advantage if you win the first game because you just get extra time. So he's your best guy. So I think they'll go Prager. And then, what do you do the next game? Lampkin and or Jones and have a quick hook if they get in any trouble and go to Cortez?
Yeah, I think you kind of have to. And in the back of your mind, you got to be thinking about Game 3. The beauty, though, if there is a word to use there, the beauty, there's a little bit more time in between, right? They're not back-to-back.
Right.
So you do have a little bit of a breather that if you use Brad Rudis, Evan Oschenbeck, Chris Cortez, as long as you don't overuse them, the chances of them at least being somewhat recovered are a little bit better in that scenario.
Yeah. And that's why, again, it's so important to win that first game. You can, especially if Prager can eat up some innings. You save wear and tear on the arms. And if my memory serves, and it may not, it seems like 2 years ago. I'm already having not Micah Dallas, the other kid, Nathan Detmer. Seems like he pitched and then somebody else pitched, and then by the time the next game comes, he was ready to pitch again. So if Prager pitches Saturday, if they got to a third game, maybe he's ready to go again. So
with your season on the line, I would assume all hands are on deck, right? Like if you can go and give us an inning or two and, get a little bit of a breather after that, go do it. Because, you're playing for this moment. This is why you play the game.
But I'm talking about giving you a full start again.
Yeah, a full start, yeah.
Yeah. So, but, we've said it yesterday, and I'm sure we'll say it again several times before Friday and Saturday is, you got the guys with the ability. Just play to your ability, and good things are going to happen.
And I do want to clarify something from yesterday. I think some took my over-optimism with Maroon goggles. I'm not saying that I'm overly optimistic that we're just as good without Braden Montgomery or potentially Shane Sadeo. What I'm saying is this team has enough to make something happen. Now, does that happen? That remains to be seen. But I think you have enough depth that I think you take Braden Montgomery away from your lineup. You absolutely are hurt, especially the impact of that top third. It just feels different with those three. All that being said, you look at the talent on that roster and compare it to others, I think you're better than a lot of the teams that are still left. You just need to play to the way you've played for 90% of the season.
Absolutely. If you can do that, if you can get your best or near your best performances this week, then or these next 2 weeks, great things are going to happen. Now, here's the fact of competition. Some guys on some teams, when the pressure is on or when there's more at stake, they flourish, and some guys kind of fade. And that's just the fact of competition. And hopefully, we'll see guys flourish. And quite frankly, that's what we saw. Can you be in a bigger pressure situation than A&M was in Sunday night with your starting pitcher already out, right away, and you're looking at a 4-run deficit and all the things that happened and the way the guys responded?
And I wonder the mental approach of that, right? Like knowing that you have gone through that adversity, right? To me, we all do it in our business, in our home life. When you've kind of chartered some difficult waters, there's a confidence level like we can get this done. And that's why when they're down 9-0 to Georgia, or they're down significant with your starting pitchers out in the first 2 games of the Super Regionals, there is no panic with this team because they have been down that road. And look, they've been one of the 5 best teams in baseball all season long. So it's not like they've been the underdog, but they have gone through this adversity. And because of their extreme leadership and talent and togetherness, they find ways to finish.
Yeah. And, to your point, confidence grows with all that. Every one of those times you overcome one of those obstacles, your confidence grows that much more, and you don't panic. But that said, just for me and my health, I just hope that they can get out to some leads and don't have to have as much stress.
Yeah, and they're being sent off here a little bit later. By the way, Billy Liucci is going to go to that and then come join us afterwards to give us his thoughts. We'll check in with Bronny and Zane a couple different times throughout the show to find out the road trip shenanigans and what's going on, and some baseball thoughts as well, of course. We'll have a loaded show. Kendall Rogers had to cancel for today. We're postponing it for tomorrow, so we'll catch up with him tomorrow. OB, not that it matters per se, but I do want to jump to football for a moment. The rest of the schedule pretty much was ironed out for the SEC yesterday, and kind of wanted to get your thoughts on any. Does it matter that Missouri's at 11 a.m., that A&M's got a bunch of these flex games, that it feels like A&M's going to get that there's more interest in them this year, not as the villain, but as in a curiosity than maybe the last couple of years?
Yeah, I think there's definitely interest with them as a curiosity. What are they going to – no one doubts that A&M has talent. Now, do they have as much as they used to? Maybe not, but they're still very talented. And how different is it going to be under this new coaching staff and everything? So I think, there is a curiosity there. The starting times typically don't matter to me, but I will say this, and I've always believed this, that an 11 a.m. kickoff is, I don't know if it's an advantage, but that's what you want if you're a visiting team. You want the 11 a.m. kickoff. So, but you know this, because I know you're a competitor. You just got to be ready to go whatever time they say to play.
Bro, I just broed you.
Yeah.
When you're a competitive person, it doesn't matter what time it is. The other night, against little kids, by the way, I was playing basketball the night before a show at 11 o'clock at night, almost midnight, because they challenged me. And if this old man over here wants to compete, I know Mike Elko and the guys will be ready to go 11 a.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 10 p.m. It does not matter. At least that should be the mindset. Also, while I understand that to be the case, that the 11 a.m. team, it's a little bit better, right? Like, so because the crowd is not as into it. They may be late arriving. They're kind of hungover from the night before. I think Caulfield's a different animal, and you will get that heat in a September game at 11 a.m. Well, Missouri's not September, but you catch my point.
Yeah, early October can feel like July,
Yep.
But I think the advantage is, and I don't know if it's advantage, it's just a preference. Preference should be what I should say. And we've talked about this with the McKinney brothers and others, that when you're on the road and you're just sitting around waiting for the game, that's miserable. So if it's an 11 o'clock game, great. Get up, you have breakfast, you go to a meeting, and you go to the stadium and you get ready to play. And so maybe it's not an advantage. Maybe I'm just talking about a preference for the visiting team. I know when A&M's on the road, they'd rather play at 11 game.
Yeah, it can certainly be a preference, and everything matters. But depending on the quality team that you have, it doesn't matter, hopefully.
Well, to the other thing you were talking about, the atmosphere of the game. One thing I do know, 11 a.m. usually the fans aren't as into it because there's, in some regard, they're still waking up. However, if your team is good, and I don't know what to expect from this A&M team, but I think there's a very good possibility that it could be very good. Possibility, I said, that if they prove to be good, your fans are going to be ready, and we're going to be at fever pitch at 11 a.m. because they're supporting a good team.
Well, let's go ahead.
No, I'm done.
Let's go through the schedule just so we can have the Notre Dame game, which was already known, 6:30 there to start off the season on August 31st. Saturday, September 7th, taking on McNeese. That is an 11:45 a.m. start on the SEC network. I'm sure that happens, but I don't remember 11:45 being a start time typically, but I guess maybe because of the SEC network.
Yeah.
Saturday, September 14th, against Florida. We'll be at that one, 2:30 start Central Time, by the way. That'll be on ABC. Then you have the game on the 21st, and that'll be Bowling Green at A&M, a 6:30 start, ESPN Plus and SEC Plus for that broadcast. You have the game against Arkansas. It says here afternoon, likely the 12 o'clock or the 1 o'clock game. On the broadcast network is still TBD. As we already discussed, the Mizzou game, that'll be 11 a.m. game on the early part of October the 5th. October the 19th, you have A&M and Mississippi State. That's a flex start. We don't know that one. Saturday, October 26th. LSU at Texas A&M, also a flex. Saturday, November 2nd. It is A&M at South Carolina. Looks like a night game, 6 or 7 o'clock. Saturday, November the 16th. New Mexico State at Texas A&M, a 6:45 start on the SEC network. And the Auburn game, Saturday, November 23rd. That game is a flex game. And Saturday, November 30th, the reunion and the rivalry returns. Texas at Texas A&M. It looks like a flex game, but probably be a 7 o'clock start for that one, OB. So that's what we see here on the schedule. And it's I do still think, and we have all offseason still to go, or all summer to go. I still think that month of September sets you up for what could be a special season or a you better catch up season.
Oh, yeah, especially when you have a road trip to Florida, which may or may not be difficult. I don't know what to expect, but and you start off with Notre Dame. I think you get a good idea of where you're going, or how good you might be in that first game. So, gosh, can't get here fast enough. What are we about?
Yeah, no doubt. By the way, if you want to be a part of the conversation this morning, you can do it multiple ways. You can call us 979-693-1150. That is the phone number, the hotline, and of course, the text line. You can text us your thoughts this morning, 979-693-1150. This is Coffee Talk presented by TexAgs Coffee. Beat the hell out of the mornings by going to texags.com/coffee. Let's go around the room and say hello to the people. Cade Bickham today in the chair for Nick Savage, who Nick is looking over his shoulder, as I understand, because for the rest of the week, it's going to be the Cade Show.
Yeah, that's correct. It is going to be the Cade Show the rest of the week. Nick has something important to do. I'm not totally sure what it is, but it's something kind of important. I don't know if you recall.
I don't remember what Nick has going on. Is he like going to the bank or something the rest of the week? Has he got appointments?
Yeah, he's getting taken to the bank.
That seems about right, actually.
What's going on in your world, Cade?
Oh, well, I mean, I'm excited for that. I like the 11 a.m. start time for the A&M Missouri game. I think that I don't know. I like playing. I think we don't play well at 2:30. That like mid-afternoon game. That's when it seems like it's the hottest part of the day. It seems like things sometimes get dicey when we play at that time. I think when we get up and go, or when we get that time to prepare for that atmosphere at night, that's when we play our best at home.
Kate, I'm going to stop you here. That's old regime thinking. This is a new regime. And if we want to get to where we want to get to, it doesn't matter what time the game is. So we're not going to say back in the day. We're going to say moving forward, we're going to be ready at 11 a.m., 2:30, 7 p.m., you name it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. That's right. That was a dramatic pause, and I felt like I was teaching my kids, how to get ready for their sporting event because everybody just kind of looked at me and stayed quiet. So thanks, guys. I appreciate that.
Hey, I've seen the Aggies have some of the greatest wins at 2:30. I've seen some of the greatest wins, at 6:30 or 7.
2:30 is that potentially the Alabama game from 2012?
It was a 2:30 game, as a matter of fact. Yes, it was
on CBS, huh?
Yeah, and I saw them beat LSU in a game that started at 7 and ended like after midnight.
This is all very true. Hey, let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. I'm not going to even guess who's there. I'm just going to go to it. Hopefully, Kate will pop it up on my Zoom so I can see who's at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Who is this?
It's me again, Callie.
Hey.
Hey. We
How's
miss
the
you,
voice
David.
doing?
It's better, I think.
Yeah, you sound like yourself, Callie.
Yay, that's great. I think along the lines of the football schedule, I was looking at last year's football schedule, and we had 6 games at 11 a.m. So if anything, the Aggie fan base is conditioned for 11 a.m. start, and anything after that is a blessing. So I think I'm on your page. We can do whatever at whatever time. So
you don't want to play a lot of 11 a.m. games because that means
you're not good.
You're not having a good year.
Yeah. So
and by the way, it's early June when we're breaking down game time starts.
Yes.
11 a.m., 2 p.m., 6 p.m. Oh my God, how are they going to be ready? Sorry, Callie, go ahead.
No, I agree, but I'm excited. I think that Missouri game will be good, and regardless of what time it's at, it'll be a good game. On the baseball front, we've got a lot of things happening. Obviously, the team is traveling to the World Series, and I know we mentioned that send-off. It's happening at 9:30, so if you're out and about driving around, head over to Bluebell and send off our team. It's just outside of the left field gate, so go send them to Omaha, and there are 5 members of that team that have been named to the 2024 All-American Baseball Coaches Association region team, and that would be outfielder Braden Montgomery and Jace LaVallette, third baseman Gavin Grahovac, relief pitcher Evan Oschenbeck were on the first team, and then starting pitcher Ryan Prager was named to the second team. And the 5 selection ties the most among the teams in the Central region in program history with the 2015 squad from Texas A&M. So that's super awesome to see. And another interesting fact about the College World Series, I think we've probably touched on it, but there's only 2 conferences represented, and that would be ACC and SEC, which at the beginning of the season, I feel like you could have maybe predicted that just with the talent that's in both of those conferences in baseball, but that's the first time it's happened since they expanded to the 8-team bracket in 1950, which is really, really interesting. So.
Good stuff, Callie. I appreciate you. Send some text messages Callie's way if you have any questions to start off the program. Any talking points, 979-693-1150. When we come back, we're going to check in with the road crew. I remember a couple years back, and in fact, I was reminded of this. Dalton was hosting at this point a show, and they just kept on checking in with the crew as they were driving. Olin was a part of that caravan. And what kind of music were you guys listening to?
Brauninger was playing his playlist. Everything from Hank Williams Jr. to Afro Man. Yeah.
You're a big Afro Man fan.
I was laughing. I will say that.
Because you want to get high. All right, we'll come back with that right now. Let's talk about the Association of Former Students. They have great sponsorship opportunities for you folks who want to get your brand in front of all their big-time events, and they have several big-time events out there. They have the marquee events like Aggie Green Day, All Aggie Hullabaloo, and The Gathering. They welcome tens of thousands of guests to these awesome, awesome parties. There are many sponsorship vendor opportunities available to get your brand in front of those attendees, and they offer a wide variety of both digital and in-person options to promote your brand. Options include title sponsorship, naming, on-site presence and activation, recognition, social media posts, and much, much more. There's also advertising opportunities in the Texas Aggie Magazine and the Aggie News newsletter, which are seen by over 230,000 people. So if your business is ready to engage with diehard Aggies, choose a partner with the organization that's been supporting the Aggie Network for over 140 years. For more information on options available through the association, please email sponsorships@aggienetwork.com. All right, welcome back to TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. David Nuño, Olin Buchanan with you. At some point in the hour, we'll check in with Zane Brauninger, and Richard Zane. Obi, I wanted to talk about a column that I read from CBS Sports a couple weeks back that kind of caught my attention. And I think we talked about just the quarterbacks, but I wanted to get a deeper dive into it. It's from John Talty at CBS Sports, and it's about how inside college football NIL market works, how much players at each position are actually getting paid. And it is generalized based on several conversations with Power 5 and 4 stars, I should say. What was that? Oh, do we have the gentleman from the road trip? Is that right?
Ryan somewhere in Oklahoma.
And ladies, excuse you, Nuño.
Pardon.
Smith and Jamie Murray can hear you as well.
Hello, family. How's everybody?
Oh, we're good, Poppy. How are you?
I'm good. Who's doing the driving?
Oh, Brauninger.
Big man.
Is he focused? Is he playing a lot of Afro Man?
No Afro Man yet. We did just hit the century mark listening to George Strait get carried away.
Nice.
We definitely got carried away. But no Afro Man yet. We're still trying to figure out what song we should, queue up on the touch tunes when we get to Omaha. Last year it was, or 2 years ago it was what? It was Ronnie.
It was the Sonny DeShera walk-up song, the Italian.
How long is the drive? Is it 14 hours?
It's like 12 if you go nonstop, but we've already stopped once in Sanger, Texas. So we'll probably have to stop a couple more times for bathroom breaks and food. Our ETA is about 4:15 p.m. Central Time, and we left at 4 a.m. on the dot back in College Station.
So 4-person crew, and then do you guys know the schedule for tomorrow when the team arrives, or they arrive later on today? But what is going on tomorrow?
So obviously the A&M send-off is at 9:30 at Bluebell Park in Aggieland. They'll fly from College Station to Omaha, so they'll beat us to the Heartland. And then tomorrow they've got a practice in the evening or late afternoon, and then a press conference right after.
Okay. Hey, at 10:30, I want to get into some of the specifics of this series, of the College World Series. But I did want to ask first off about the little bit of news we got for next season's team. I'm probably mispronouncing his name, but tell me a little bit about Matt Bergevin from Fairfield.
Yeah, Bergevin's another high-impact right-handed bat, and that's something that you start looking at next year's roster that they needed was some power right-handed bats. He had 18 home runs for Fairfield, had an OPS north of 1050. His walk and to strikeout ratio was really good. I think he had something like maybe 8 more strikeouts than walks. And, look, at this point with this coaching staff and their ability to evaluate the portal, especially smaller school guys, you have to always give them the benefit of the doubt, no matter what the numbers at the previous stop said. But for Bergevin, it's not hard to project him out. The numbers were really good when you look at the swing, the aesthetic of the swing, how it works. There's a lot to really like there. And obviously, I think that news, and even the bigger news, David, was Penn transfer Wyatt Hensler has announced that he's taking his name out of the draft, and he is going to come to league home run king of all time. Is going to turn down pro baseball to come play at Texas A&M next season. So between those two guys, if we were to take the numbers that they did last year or this season that's ending now, 22 homers for Hensler, 18 for Bergevin, excuse me. So that's 40 home runs. Obviously, with Braden Montgomery moving on, and who knows what the roster looks like last year, offensively, they should still be in the same position. Yeah, you'd have to imagine, another year of maturity for Gavin Grahovic, Caden Sorrell, and obviously Chase will very likely, as long as he stays healthy, break the all-time home run record at Texas A&M. It's pretty easy to start piecing together next season in terms of offensive outputs, and there's a lot to be excited about. And who knows, like you said, with what happens with the current roster. Jackson Appel can come back. Hayden Schott can come back. I don't anticipate Ali Camarillo turning down Major League Draft overtures, but he can come back. So offensively, whether those guys move on or not, with a core group of Hensler, Bergevin, Lavalette, Brahovic, and Sorrell, I mean, it's pretty easy to see like they could put one that's maybe not. I don't know. I mean, it could challenge this year in terms of power potential.
Let me ask you this, and again, we're looking ahead as we should be looking at the College World Series, but it just piqued my interest with the additions yesterday, or the affirmation, I should say. What about pitching? Have you heard anything about what they're looking in the portal pitching wise? I know obviously their focus is on the College World Series, but I know conversations are being had.
Yeah, they're in on a handful of pitchers, both from schools in the region and from schools all over the country, and they're combing through it every day, taking phone calls. The biggest thing they have to do, and this is something we saw 2 years ago, is that oftentimes the teams that are in Omaha, they have a disadvantage in the portal, and it's weird to say that because they're having successful seasons, and you think that would lend itself to having success in the portal. But because there's nobody in College Station this week, they can't bring guys in on visits. And typically, at least on the baseball side, these portal these transfers, these commitments can happen really, really quick. So last weekend they had Bergevin on campus. He was at the Super Regional game. So, that was clear cut for him. He got it done and over with in short manner. But, what I think the goal is for all these pitchers, hitters, whoever they're in the portal right now, the goal is just get them to put off making a decision until A&M gets back and they can bring these guys in on visits.
OB, you have any questions?
Well, not about recruiting or transfers or anything. I think y'all covered that. I do wonder, and I know Ryan's up on all this stuff. So, Ryan, just looking ahead, do you see if either A&M or Florida has any kind of an edge just in the way the stadium plays to their personnel?
I don't know. I think it's pretty even, man. Like they're both super talented rosters. They like to hit the ball. They like to slug. They hit the ball in the ballpark. For guys like Jack Caglione and Jay Lavalette, it doesn't matter how big the ballpark is. They can still hit it out. And so I think it's going to come down to who plays the cleaner brand of baseball from a free bases standpoint. Who's going to throw the most strikes? Who's going to catch it and throw it across the infield when it's put in play? I think that'll be kind of one of the determining factors that I'm looking at least early on in my breakdown. I don't know if Florida has announced a starter. I don't think A&M has. You'd think it would be Ryan Prager, but who knows? If Jim Schlossnagle likes a matchup somewhere against Florida, he may try to exploit that. But I do think, oftentimes people confuse familiarity with comfortability. And I think just because A&M is familiar with Florida doesn't mean that the matchup's going to be more comfortable. Florida is – I think right now they're actually playing a similar brand of baseball that they were when A&M played them early in the SEC slate. And that was the best version of Florida we saw in the regular season, and they've gotten back to that. Whereas A&M, look, it's no question that losing Braden Montgomery and Shane Sadeo has made the task of winning a national championship, which is already hard enough, it's made that infinitely harder. That's two of your best players, two of your most impactful players. I don't know that there's a team in the field that's been hit like A&M has in terms of injuries, but that doesn't mean it can't be done. There's still enough talent. There's enough experience. There's enough guts and mental fortitude on this roster. There's enough experience and wisdom in the coaching staff to manage and pull them through it. But, winning game one in Omaha is, when you look at postseason game importance, game two of a regional, the winner's bracket game, is probably the most important. Then it would probably be game one of a super regional and then game one in Omaha. Like those would be the top three in terms of importance, in my opinion, of postseason matchups. So, whatever you can do to go win a game, if that means you've got to burn Cortez and Aschenbeck in day one against Florida, then I think you do that. And then you figure out the next day when you get there. But in terms of the matchup and how the ballpark, favors one or the other, I think that's because of the way both rosters are constructed in terms of physicality and talent. Like, I don't think one team's going to play better to the ballpark than the other.
Great stuff, guys. We're going to check in with you here around 10:35. Safe drive, and we'll talk to you here in a bit.
All right. See you, Nuño.
See ya. Ryan Brauninger, Richard Zane, Jamie Morey, and Katie Smith all on the road trip. Billy Liucci will be joining them later on in the week. Let's hit a break here. When we come back, we'll get into that NIL conversation, OB, because I'm fascinated by it. They talk to coaches, they talk to agents, they talk to families, they talk to players, and kind of came up with some numbers that I thought were very interesting. We'll talk about that on the other side. Right now, Heritage Films time. Every family needs a documentary done, and you can have several done. But let's start off with your dad. You start off with your grandfather, your family business, your family ranch. Tell that story of how it all came together, how your family kind of came together, how your dad met your mom, their first job, the first house, when you first went to Little League, how much it impacted your father. All these stories that are important to your family and that you really recognize when you tell your kids that story. Have it told in a documentary form and held for a long time. That way the next generation can talk about it and the generation after that. That is the beauty of a heritage film. 2-hour documentaries for normal people, family business, family ranch, families, eye in the sky at a party, you name it. Cool events that you do with your buddies, all can be documented and done in a 2-hour documentary form. There's also the Yearflix option, which I know the kids love doing. My daughter Annalise did it. It is a 20-minute Q&A video with a green screen behind you, and it just goes deep into some of the cool stories about their lives, what they like, what they don't like, favorite moments at school, favorite moments on the sports field, wherever it may be. Yearflix is a great option for the kids, and it's a benchmark video, so you can follow up in a couple years and do the next one. The website is yourheritagefilm.com. Yourheritagefilm.com. 713-893-8341. 713-893-8341. All right, welcome back into TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. I am in Juno Beach, Florida, right by Jupiter, West Palm Beach, or all the minor league baseball, or excuse me, spring training baseball is. The Astros and Nationals not too far from here. If you want to be a part of the conversation this morning, you can text it or call in 979-693-1150. It is the Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. OB, before we started talking to Bronny, Zane, and the crew, I started bringing up a topic because I was just fascinated by some of these NIL numbers that are online that you can read the CBS sports story from a couple weeks back, and it says and it talked to agents, parents, coaches, players, you name it. It kind of got a feel for it. What do you think the quarterback market range is for a college football, pretty top tier quarterback? What do you think the numbers are?
Some things I've heard. Some are $1 million plus.
Some are $1 million plus. It says here for a starting Power 4 quarterback, you're looking at $500,000 to $800,000 a year. This is not talking about the Heisman-esque guys. This is talking about a starting Power 4 quarterback. Mississippi State, other programs. So that's the number. And by the way, that may sound low because of some of the numbers we've heard. $500,000 as a 19-year-old, 20-year-old starter at a small college school is ridiculous numbers, but that's what they're getting on the open market.
Well, several years ago, didn't Quinn Ewers get $1 million to go to Ohio State?
Yep.
And so he passed up his senior year in high school. And of course, we remember Nick Saban famously bragging how the little guy who's now the quarterback of the Panthers. Who's the first round pick?
Bryce Young.
Bryce Young. How he got a $1 million deal within days after NIL was ratified, for lack of a better word. Of course, then he complained about other programs paying players, but that's the saving way. So salaries rarely go down. So if you're top tier, like elite, I would assume that you can demand $1 million or more.
Well, here it talks about Hugh Freeze, that part of the reason he kept Peyton Thorne, he likes him, yada yada yada. But part of the reason was he even said it himself, he could not find himself paying $1 million to get a quarterback to play when he's got a couple capable guys there.
Yeah, or he couldn't land the guy he wanted.
It's either one, right?
I
just can't financially do it. I just can't. But okay, if you're interested, if Caleb Williams came back, if he didn't get drafted, he goes, I'll go there for $1 million. You think he would have paid for it?
Yes. They would have found. They would have called that guy. In the guy was like the CEO of Apple or someplace like that. Auburn grad. I can't think of his name right now. Insanely rich guy and one of those high tech companies, and is an Auburn grad. I can't remember who it is. So he made that phone call. Hey, can you help us out here?
Running back range, $200,000 to $300,000, which apparently Quinshawn Junkins was well above that number. But there was Damian Martinez was set to make $400,000 before he left for Miami there in Corvallis. So that just kind of gives you a little bit of a range for a running back.
I wonder, and that great. Hey, it's America. Get whatever you can get. But I do wonder. We talk about sustainability, and that's one thing. But I do wonder if some of these numbers aren't going to generate resentment within the roster too. Not everywhere, but in some places.
I don't have the quote, but I'm sure maybe Cade could find it. But that was one of the conversations that Tony Vitello at Tennessee, the baseball coach, he said that there was reports of NIL dollars in his locker room that caused some real dissension. Maybe he can find that during the break so you can hear it. But that is a real thing. Why is he making this when I do this and I show up to practice early, or I'm producing this X, Y, and Z? Here's another one. And I was actually surprised with how low this number could be. The wide receiver market range apparently is $75,000 to $300,000. By the way, $75,000 is a lot of money. I don't, for me and you and most of America, but compared to what some of the other positions we're making, I found that to be a little lower than what I would have expected.
Yeah, me too, because quite frankly, if I was if I had the money, had I won that $1 billion lottery a few months ago, and I was bankrolling A&M, I would be putting a lot of money in receivers, because I'll ask you this. When was the last time you saw a national championship team that didn't have good receivers?
You can't.
I mean, at least good. Usually they have to be elite. Michigan was a little bit different. But you know what? Washington was there because of its passing game. And that kid that was a first-round pick at receiver.
Obi, do you think it's because there are more wide receivers, and like the super impactful, game-changing Marvin Harrison Jr. ones are going to get paid exorbitant numbers, but the rest of the pack, they're not really game changers, so you can and there's a lot of them that you can go a little bit lower. Do you think that's part of the reason?
I don't know, because I know those guys are going to get a lot of money, but I can't imagine anyone saying, "Hey, I'm going to make a lot of money now from somebody else, so y'all don't pay me." I don't think it ever works that way.
Offensive line market, $350,000 to $500,000. Although a high-end left tackle can make more than that. But
I'm sure Kelvin Banks over at Texas is getting more than that. Yeah, he's probably getting more than that before NIL.
And let's see. I think Callie just sent me a message for the show. Callie, do you want to read what you were talking about?
Oh yeah, it was the tweet or the quote from Tony Vitello. He was talking about how it was a lie about how much someone tweeted out that their player that they had committed through the portal. Someone tweeted that they gave him $250,000 or quote some absurd amount that became the thought around our locker room and around the team, and it started a whole mess. It wasn't true, and it wasn't even close to being true. We had a player that we had signed, ran off, and played at another program, and we went ahead and released him that we lost because of the tweet.
Must have been from sliced bread.
Well, he's a reputable source when it comes to NIL, OB.
Yeah, I think that was one of the lowest points of journalism, when respected mainstream journalists just jumped on the sliced bread and accepted that as fact without doing any work of their own. And that told you where media was now.
OB, I think it's even worse that to this day people still believe those numbers.
Yeah, of course.
Even though I don't want to say it's been proven it wasn't true. And because of the demise of the program and people leaving, it becomes it's now it's not even worth arguing, because people just think, dude, you guys were paying, it's fine, move on. And that's not how that class was built, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we've been all through that, but I just find it funny that, the hypocrisy of it all. But again, if I had the money and I could bankroll, I would put a lot of my money into receivers. I think receivers change the game now as much or more than any other program. I mean, remember that insanely dominant Alabama team from 2000, 2000. That when A&M should have been in the playoff and didn't get in, and Alabama won it. Yeah, it was a great team, but what stood out of that team was that incredible receiving core, and Clemson before that,
right,
and LSU before that.
Let's hit a break here, OB, and on the other side, we'll go through the defense, because some interesting numbers there for the defensive line. We'll get into that on the other side here on TexAgs Radio. Right now, we're talking Caldwell Country Chevrolet. You can find them online, as you should right now. Get your phone out, get your browser out, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. That is the website. Go see the cars that they have on the lot, get a feel for the pricing, get a feel for the vehicles, the selection out there, and then make it a weekend trip. Come to College Station if you're not in the area. If you are in College Station, you can just go back home. That's fine. You don't have to get a hotel. And go to Caldwell, right? Make that drive from Bryan to Caldwell and see the selection in person. Test drive the cars. Talk to the sales team over there and experience the difference, because at Caldwell Country Chevrolet, the customer service is second to none. That's why they have repeat business over and over. That's why R.C. Slocum buys his cars there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. That is what they do at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. They take care of people. And you certainly need to take advantage of it with their complimentary pickup and delivery of their service customers. 15-minute drive, the edge of Bryan to the beginnings of Caldwell. Short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the great people at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. All right, we're back here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewel Dorado Insurance Studio Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations, finishing up this NIL conversation with OB. CBS Sports has the defensive line market range $250,000 to $600,000, something that Brian Kelly could not afford, apparently, or wouldn't afford.
Yeah. Now, I think he could afford. I think he got outbid on the guys he wanted, and then the rest of the ones that were left over, he thought, yeah, they're not worth it. I don't have a problem with it. I think you win a lot of football games by being dominant in the defensive front, especially if they can rush the passer. So I don't know what kind of deal Nick Scorton got to come to Texas A&M, but whatever it is, I'm sure it's highly lucrative, and I applaud A&M or whoever is responsible for that.
Linebacker market $100,000 to $300,000, and then the DB range, OB, to kind of round it out, $120,000 to $225,000.
Yeah, see, and I think the DB range should be a little bit more lucrative as well, because I just told you what I thought of receivers. Well, somebody's got to cover those guys.
Yep.
And gosh, had Ohio State again been extremely active in prying guys away from Alabama. You know that Caleb Downs isn't leaving Alabama, where I'm sure he's got paid really well, to take a pay cut.
Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Callie Gardner's there. There's a couple text messages. In fact, one of those answered the question you were asking, OB, Forrest and Wellican, right, Callie?
Yes, he said the Auburn grad is Tim Cook, and he is the CEO of Apple.
Oh, okay.
And he also, I think, went to Duke. I think has some degree from Duke. So, and then we have a couple from people just chiming in on agreeing with UOB in the fact that there's going to be some dissent and resentment towards the players making a ton of money. However, once people get paid, they have a tendency to take off of hard work.
Isn't that interesting, OB? Like, and I think that is, I don't want to say the problem with college athletics, but when the hunger, I wonder if it changes for your pro aspirations as you become this rising star in college, and the check of the NFL draft is being dangled in front of you. But if you already get that check at 19 years old, is there that same incentive that you had to be a great NFL player at the next level?
Well, you certainly hope so, because if you don't, you're being very, very short-sighted. And, of course, college kids can be very short-sighted anyway. Some can't see past the next weekend. But if you got this, David, I'm not telling you something you don't know. The NFL, they try to look and learn everything about you. And if you get a reputation of, hey, he got paid and shut it down, well, then why am I going to pay him?
OB, let me read this text before we hit a break, because we got about a minute left. And it was the sad news yesterday came out that Brad Dusek had passed away, been battling bad health. Jim and Temple sent a couple thoughts about him. I never knew Brad personally, but got to know his brother at my workplace. And Brad scored the game-winning TD to beat Arkansas in the north end zone of Kyle Field with Emory Billard's wishbone back. So just thoughts and prayers to the Dusek family. OB, tomorrow on the program, more baseball, right?
As it should be. I mean, as
much
as I love football, there's nothing bigger than baseball.
We'll have a lot. Well, we always have some football to get into, right?
Always. Never a bad time to talk about college football, especially A&M, but baseball rules the day right now.
Yep. All right, we'll hit a break here. We'll come back with John Harris and then Jason Howell after that, and just a loaded program. It's TexAgs Radio. All right, welcome back into TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. John Harris should be joining us here momentarily. He just sent me a text message. Saw some sad news come up on my timeline on Twitter. Jerry West has passed away at the age of 86. Obviously a Hall of Famer, a legend in the game of basketball, as not only as a player, but obviously in the logo, the franchise, right? He did it all, but also as a general manager, just an incredible ambassador of the game of basketball. He will certainly be missed. A couple of topics for this hour. We've got a loaded 9 o'clock hour. So we're going to have John Harris here with us in a few minutes. We have Jason Howell, who's going to be in studio. We haven't had Howell in studio in a while, so we'll talk to Jason here momentarily. And then after that, we should have our track spotlight with Joe Serra, the pole vaulting coach for A&M track, and Paul Ehring, gold medal winner. Also, he's the long distance coach for A&M track. So we'll talk to both of them fresh off the NCAA championships and looking ahead at all the great stuff happening this summer with the Olympic trials and whatnot. All right, if you want to be part of the conversation, 979-693-1150 is the phone number. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center for a quick text message as John Harris is getting ready to join the program. All right, Callie, give us one. Instead of Callie, we'll go straight to John Harris, who I believe is ready to roll. Johnny, good morning, buddy.
How are you? How you doing, David?
How you been, man?
Juggling. That's all you do when you do radio, man. You just juggle one to the next, to the next, to the next.
Hey, so I'll just quickly, did you see the news about Jerry West? And I did. I don't know if you had any interactions with him. I had a few. He was a very nice man.
I didn't have any interactions with him. We went to the Greenbrier and I think we missed him. We ended up eating at a steakhouse, which is fantastic, but we just missed him. But everything that you know about Jerry West, I think there are a lot of people that watch the Winning Time documentary and think, oh, this dude was a hothead and that's all he just cussed at everybody. And Jerry West is one of the greats, covering everything. He was a college basketball great. He was an NBA playing great. He was an NBA GM great. I mean, he was everything that the NBA was about. Shoot, he was the freaking NBA logo. I mean, he was incredible. And it's ironic in some sense. I was kind of floating through Instagram last night and I saw this, I can't remember if it was a t-shirt or hoodie or whatever it was, but it was the black and white picture of Jerry West with the LA Lakers. And I love black and white pictures. And I was always enamored with, NBA back in the 50s and 60s. I remember reading as a kid, what that was all about. And I remember reading about Jerry West and, how, amazing he was, even though they couldn't win a championship. And I just loved that picture. I was like, man, I'm going to order that. And it was literally last night that I hadn't thought of Jerry West for a while. And it's just weird that it popped up. So RIP to one of the greats in all sports, to be able to do it at every single level. And Dave, when you start thinking about that, how many in other sports can you go, all right, college sport, great, professional playing sport, great, professional GM or, higher even, great. I don't know that you can put too many other people in that team picture, if we're being honest.
Yeah, let me think about that for a minute, because he was successful and like elite successful, not just successful, elite at every stop that he had in his life and career.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think he's the benchmark, for all of that, because how often is it said that, well, a guy that was a great player can't end up being a great executive or a great coach because he just can't relate to those particular players of a later era. And Jerry West was able to do that. Shoot, Jerry West was able to watch a 18-year-old kid at Lower Merion High School and go, that guy's the next one. That guy's the next one, that Kobe Bryant. He's the next guy. I'm going to trade my big guy, Vlade Divac, and a few other picks to make sure I go up and I get this Kobe Bryant in a 96 draft. I mean, that was all Jerry West. He was the one pushing for all of that to happen. So he's just an amazing, amazing individual. And as I try and think on the run about, somebody that's done it at the NFL level, that was a college great, an NFL playing great, a great coach or, great executive. David, I can't think of one off the top of my head that really fits into that category. So, Jerry West is just, he basically is one of one, man. It's incredible.
Well, the closest thing I can get to, he wasn't a great player, so it doesn't work. Pat Riley, obviously an amazing coach, an amazing executive, and was a first-round pick in the NBA, but never had the Hall of Fame-esque player lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was a solid player, but he wasn't obviously at the level of Jerry West. So, that's a great one. He did play. I think people, forget that. He was, he's part of those Kentucky teams in the 60s for Adolph Rupp. He did go to the league and play in the league and had a successful career. I mean, it wasn't at a Jerry West level, but it was a successful career. And then a great, coach and executive. He probably gets, I guess, the closest. The one that probably comes to mind in the NFL, David, that just popped into my head is Ozzie Newsome. Ozzie's probably the closest you could probably get, because you get, Alabama All-American tight end. He's a Pro Bowl Hall of Fame player. And then he was an incredible executive with the Browns and the Ravens. Started, as a scout and then worked his way up, became the GM of the Ravens and, won Super Bowls while he was there. So, yeah, I think Ozzie Newsome is probably the first one that comes to mind. And I don't know that there are many after him, but it's a small team picture. That's for sure.
Johnny, a couple of weeks ago, you gave us an update on Kenyon Green. How have things progressed with him, and could he play an integral role this year?
Yeah, I think there's no question he'll play an integral role. It's just a matter of, is he going to win that competition at left guard? And I think that's the one thing about being a first round pick is you're going to get a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, especially when the GM that drafted you is still at that particular location. There's going to be, not he's going to get first shot, but I think there's this, okay, well, we've got to see what we got. We drafted him number 15 overall. Let's roll with this. But what's ended up happening because of the injuries, and obviously the injuries led to some inconsistent play, and then missing all of last year, it's opened the door for other guys to show, hey, I could step into that role. Kendrick Green, we traded for, when Kenyon was dealing with some issues, we traded for him. I think we traded for him. I didn't give up a ton of that, I remember, but he comes in, there were low expectations. The Pittsburgh media was just killing him for everything. And he comes in and he steps in and played really, really well for 3 games that he started. And I thought, okay, now there's a competition. And then you've got guys that you claimed on waivers that were rookies, Nick Broker, from Ole Miss. I don't know that any of them are as talented when Kenyon Green is right as Kenyon. But it's just a matter of, can Kenyon be right, both physically and mentally? And, there were some scars from that rookie season when he faced every big-time player, interior player, from Dexter Lawrence to, Chris Jones to, the 2 guys with Washington, Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen. He faced all of them, and he faced them like right in a row. And because of that, I think there were probably a little bit of confidence lost, and, he's got to get that back. But to me, and this has kind of been a talking point here. I've said this a million times, because left guard is a question mark. If Kenyon is able to answer that question, and look, it doesn't have to be Pro Bowl status. It doesn't have to be all pro. It doesn't have to be he's the number 1 guard in the NFL. He just has to play solid, not make mental mistakes, find his confidence, get in there and battle in the run game. Man, that basically answers all the offensive questions. Other than how are you going to spread the wealth out to all these weapons? So there is some, I don't know, defense has some question, maybe the secondary, like how that comes together, but there are very few offensive questions. The biggest one is at left guard. And if Kenyon Green answers that question in the affirmative, man, there's no telling where this offense is going to go.
Hey, Johnny, somebody, Damian on the YouTube chat says John Lynch as an executive that did it as a player.
Yeah, good one.
Now doing that. That's a great one. He's
that's a great one.
Both levels.
Yeah, right, John Lynch did it in 2 sports too. I mean, he played baseball and football as a professional. I don't think he ever got to the major leagues in baseball, but just an absolute dude. So yeah, John Lynch is a very, very good one. Absolutely.
Hey, so sometimes when you come on the show, I bring up old scabs, old wounds, right? So I'm going to bring up one. Deshaun Watson recently saying, if anybody's talking about me, I must be pretty good, because I think he was ranked in the rankings, like 20th or 21st, something in that range. He's like, if people are bringing me up that low, I must be pretty good. What kind of year do you expect from Deshaun?
I don't know if Deshaun's I don't know if Deshaun is handling that the right way or perceiving that in the right way. If I'm being honest, I do think that he can have an opportunity for a bounce back year. They've given him every answer that you could possibly want. They added Jerry Jeudy. They already went out and got Amari Cooper a couple years ago, but now they got to deal with the contract of Amari Cooper. There are so many things that they've given to him, and now we'll see if he's going to do it. He's coming off a shoulder surgery, so the guy's played 12 games in 2 years in Cleveland. Then he didn't play the year before that, so he really hasn't played quality football since the first week of January of 2021. I mean, that's a long freaking time ago. I mean, we were still wearing masks, most of us. We were still dealing with COVID. I mean, that's how long ago it's been since Deshaun Watson has played really good football. And I think the reason that people are still talking about it is they're shaking their head from the standpoint of, well, this trade could really blow up in the Browns' face. And as we move, further and further down the line from that trade, it's looking more and more like, man, the Browns got fleeced. And so it's more that kind of talk. And, Deshaun Watson, is he ever going to be able to make it back? It's not what we're talking about Deshaun Watson because he still scares people on the field. We haven't gotten to that level in a long, long time. Now, could it happen? He's got a bunch of weapons around him. He's got a tremendous offensive line when it's all healthy. He's got Nick Chubb coming back, hopefully healthy for the Browns' sake. But I think he's kind of reading that situation wrong. They're still talking about me. No, the reason they were talking about you is you were number 24 in the quarterback rankings, and you had the highest amount of guaranteed money in NFL history. And that math doesn't work if you're a Browns fan at all. I mean, you could be 12th in the quarterback rankings and it still probably doesn't work, but you're 24th in the category that Chris Sims said it's time to poop or get off the pot. That was the category that he put Deshaun Watson in. So that's why people are talking about it, not because, oh yeah, he's still great. Look, he's coming off a shoulder surgery. We'll see what he's got. Andrew Luck came off shoulder surgery and, he played for a year and was just tired of rehabbing. So, Sean is no spring chicken. I mean, he's, what is this? 2017 was his rookie year, 27. So it's his 8th year in the league. Now, he hasn't played but like 77 games. He's played like 4 of those 7 seasons. But when he was good, he was great. But when he was in Cleveland, he's been lousy. So we'll see if he's ready to bounce back. He's got all the answers around him. This year, if it doesn't work, there's nothing more that Deshaun can say because year 1, we're going to give you this. Year 2, we're going to get you, Amari Cooper. You got this offensive line. We got Stefanski. Okay, well, Alex Van Pelt didn't work, for whatever reason, as the offense coordinator. So we're going to bring you in Ken Dorsey. They've done everything to try and appease him. And if it doesn't work this year, I'd be done with it if I were the Browns.
Talking to John Harris here from footballtakeover.com and, of course, Houston Texans sideline reporter. Johnny, one other scab to bring up, a little wound from the past. Bill O'Brien, the Boston College head coach, says taking the Texans GM job was a mistake. I wish I didn't do that. That wasn't his biggest mistake, but it was certainly he made several blunders there, Johnny.
Yeah. He made a ton of them. This one's kind of a tough one to talk about in some sense because of everything that did happen. And he's right in a sense that he should not have taken the GM job. But his bigger mistake was thinking that the GM job was just, whatever. That was kind of the way that he thought about the GM job. And that was his mistake. And he was trying to do too much in large part. And I think this stems from everything that happened from Penn State going forward. Bill had very little trust in anybody in any building he's been in. And he didn't trust anybody in Houston because of the way that things went at Penn State. The way that, people that were paternal guys just didn't warm to him. And obviously we know Bill's about as, cuddly as a cactus. So it's tough to warm up to him. It takes a while. And so when he was in Houston, he just felt like, well, you know what? I was with the Patriots. This is how the Patriots did it. That's the way I'm going to do it and screw everybody else. And in all honesty, that was kind of how it went for him. And because he didn't gain that trust or even look to gain the trust of people He's just like, I'm right and you all are wrong. He eventually gets the GM job, and now he's got to prove everybody. Okay. And he also said that because he's setting himself up for an eventual return to the NFL. I mean, he wants to be an NFL head coach again. I mean, who wouldn't want to be? But he's got to be able to convince people, hey, look, all I want to do is coach. All I want to do is coach. I don't want to be the GM, etc. Okay. Proof's in the pudding. We'll see. But he's got a good gig for he and his family at Boston College, and we'll see how it ends up going from there. But I'm not surprised that he said that, because I have heard, that those same words were leaked to the media. Oh, he just wants to be a head coach again. He just wants to be a head coach again. Well, when you hear him say it, you realize, okay, he was the one that leaked that to the media last year as he's looking for an NFL job. And guess who called him? Nobody. So really nobody trusts that right now. So he's got to go to Boston College and show, I just want to be the coach. But, at a college level, you're the coach, you're the GM, you're the owner, you're everything basically. So I don't know if that'll prove anything, but it gets him back in the consciousness of being a coach. He said all the right things on that podcast. Do I believe it? It's a question for a different day.
Let's close out with Aaron Rodgers. I was listening to ESPN before the show started, and they were just going on and on about him not showing up to a mandatory, I think it's 3 days that he had to be there. He's not showing up. He has personal reasons. He doesn't want to be there. Is unexcused. It's kind of a big deal because this is the only mandatory session he has to be at. But It's Aaron Rodgers coming off an injury. Will he be the same? He's already an aging quarterback. What's your take on the entire situation?
Yeah, this was weird. He was at OTAs, which is voluntary. So then he gets to the mandatory part and he's not there. So I trying to figure out Aaron Rodgers is like trying to do a Rubik's Cube in the dark with one hand tied behind your back. Like, I don't know. I'm glad it's not something that we've had to deal with, but the more time has gone on, the more I felt for the people in Green Bay, and I felt for, Matt LaFleur and how he, tried to handle that situation. Basically, was walking on thin ice every single day. I just don't know what to think about this. I don't know what to think about him in New York. He's coming off this Achilles. He's 40 years old. I mean, it'll probably be fine. I mean, the Jets did the right thing probably in keeping Nathaniel Hackett such that Aaron Rodgers will be the offensive coordinator, basically. He'll call his own stuff. I mean, you saw in Hard Knocks. Nathaniel Hackett would call a play in his helmet. He's like, no. He'd like shake his head, no. Like, just tell him, no, we're not running that. Or, no, hey, he's very demonstrative about that. So, I don't know. It's hard to figure out what really is going on with him as we kind of, go through this thing. But, it's Jets' problem to try and figure out. And here's the interesting thing. The Jets have been 7-10 the last couple of years with Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, I don't know, whoever else they got at quarterback. I mean, they got Tyrod Taylor as their backup. If Tyrod could stay healthy, I think Tyrod could get them to 9-10 wins just because that defense is unbelievable. And the offensive talent's pretty good between Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson. Man, and Mike Williams, they just added. Tyrod could do some things. But you just don't know when Rodgers is going to, get that thing back Mach 5 in the left lane going 140 miles an hour. And you're like, oh, God, the Jets are scary. But he can also tear it down with one weekend of playing ball, and he doesn't like things, and it just blows up. I don't know. We play them Halloween night, Thursday night up there. And we've talked about in our office, just, Mark and I talked about, is Rodgers starting at quarterback? You don't know. I mean, it's such a weird situation. So, maybe he ends up being RFK's VP candidate. I don't know. Maybe that's the event he went to. Who knows? But the fact that he was there for voluntary OTAs, but he's not there for minicamp, like probably in his mind, he's like, well, hey, I was here for voluntary OTAs. I just missed this week because the timing of things. Well, I don't know. Are you going to commit to it or not? If you're not, then go. Then just go. Take your Achilles and go rest on the beach, smoke your ayahuasca or ingest it or however you do it, and then move on.
Johnny, great stuff, man. Thanks very much, buddy.
Yeah, man, I love you. Enjoy the CWS, baby.
Talk to you later. That is Johnny Harris breaking it all down here on the program. We're talking a little QC Kinetics right now before we talk to Jason Howell. If you're not able to enjoy the summer because of joint pain, you need to go enjoy the summer and get rid of that joint pain because QC Kinetics is here to take care of you. They want to take care of your knees, your shoulders, your back, and your hips because they've been hurting for a long time. One of those, all of them, whatever it may be. QC Kinetics is the place that can get you non-surgical joint pain relief, and they do it in the Brazos Valley. They're the nation's leader in regenerative medicine. We're talking about lasting joint pain relief, no surgery, no drugs, no downtime. Their advanced treatments harness your body's own ability to restore and repair damaged joint tissue so you can get back to playing baseball with your kid in the front yard. You're back to throwing the ball. You're back to jump roping. You're back to climbing trees. You name it, playing golf, moving again. Their advanced protocols have enabled tens of thousands of satisfied patients to reclaim their mobility. Stop putting it off. Take action now and live your best life. Call QC Kinetics now for a free consultation. Free. 979-452-6000. QC Kinetics, 979-452-6000. That is 979-452-6000. All right, we're going to class up the joint here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Appreciate everybody listening in. If you got any questions for Recruiting Country, you can do that at 979-693-1150. It is time for Recruiting Country, presented by Caprock Health System, a faster patient-centered revolution in care with 2 ERs in the Bryan-College Station area, the original 24-hour ER in South College Station on William D. Fitch, and the full-service hospital with ER on Bryan on Briarcrest. You can find them online, caprockhealthsystem.com. And with that, we go back to the mothership, the home studio, Jason Howell, which is weird because usually I get him on Zoom in the Metroplex, but now he's in the studio. Jason, good morning, buddy.
Yeah, what kind of bizarro world are we in right now, man? This is crazy. I don't know what to
Yeah,
think.
but your setup is a little bit nicer than my current one. I just got a little white wall with my banner out there. You have the good hats behind you, the nice little office decor.
Yeah, I'm loving it. I can get used to this. You know, we may have to switch it up every now and then. I like it.
Well, let's do it.
All right.
Hey, so talk to me about the official visit weekend that just happened and some of the names that came by. You had 8 commits in town?
Yeah, 8 commits. It was what a weekend. It was action packed, top to bottom. Several top targets as well. They had Hassan Longstreet in town, quarterback for his official visit, was a huge help on the recruiting front. He was leading the way, doing a little recruiting of his own. Got near Lincoln Cure, tight end, 5-star All-American tight end out of Kansas. That's down to a final few there with A&M. And Tiger Ryden, Kelvion Riggins, those guys, they're gonna get out there and recruit for you. Strong, solid commits, and they just all got after it. Connor Carty was another. They had a strong group. Jonte Newman was another O-lineman commit they had in town. So it was a really strong group. Like I said, 8. They had cornerbacks. Jamar Bill Goins, Kobe Sellers, and nickelback Dejon Petaway. But they were all doing work too. They weren't just here to take it in and get that nice steak from the Brazilian steakhouse and all that. They were there working, trying to build on this class, and they're excited to put something special together. And they had plenty of targets. Jamarian Morrow sat down with Tiger Ryden. They talked about what it would look like to play together. What that tandem might look like. And, you had Manny Choice, Kelshawn Johnson, and Kalik Lockett and Taz Williams, all receivers. They're talking with one another, trying to figure out where exactly they want to end up. But they're also in communication there with Longstreet. Longstreet was in every one of those guys here, along with Lincoln Cure. And, it was a great weekend. No commits, but as far as new commits, but a lot of headway being made, and I didn't even touch the offensive tackles that were in town that were just off the. I mean, they may have been the 3 biggest recruits in town with Ty Haywood, Michael Fasusi, and Lamont Rogers, all high priority targets there. So, there's just so much to tap into there, but a lot of headway. They're making some ground. No commits were really expected coming into the weekend, but it was a lot of progress. I think they've really set themselves up nicely with several of them.
Well, the wide receiver, that's such a position of emphasis. On the current roster, there's some guys that are going to be really good, but they're unproven for long term, I should say, or over a full season. So I know it's a huge priority to get some youngsters there.
Yeah, and they're on it, man. Like, I think you could see a combination. I don't think all 4 of those guys that were in town this weekend will end up there, but I know they are all high on Texas A&M coming out of the weekend. A lot of people are talking about Kalik Lockett and where he might be favoring elsewhere. Well, I don't know. I'm feeling pretty good about A&M's chances. Have been. Throughout this whole deal, he has a lot of family connections there, and some of his own personal memories growing up and being on Kyle Field and running around. So you got some of that history of his own, and to go along with what they're building. And Coach Klein definitely has their attention. And Holman Wiggins and his ability to not only to develop these guys and develop guys in the past there at Alabama has really struck a chord, and I think they got a good shot. They'll end up with a good solid group for sure.
Hassan Longstreet being involved in these conversations to me is huge because he's going to take some visits. He is a highly coveted quarterback, but the deeper he establishes relationships, I think just better long-term for A&M.
Well, I'm just going to say this, man. He may take some visits. That may happen, but he is locked in, and he has been locked in, and he's been A&M since the moment he said, I'm committed. There have been some outside conversations, some outside noise, but let me tell you, I think everybody feels pretty good about where things stand with Longstreet and have stood with Longstreet throughout this process. So I just want to put that out there. And what he did this weekend, I mean, Lincoln Cure talked about being at Bluebell, and both of, Hassan's like, man, this is a 10th of what you're going to get at Kyle Field, man. Imagine, you hear this chant. That's not even a fraction of what you're going to get, at Kyle Field. Imagine that chanting your name. And they were both, doing a little dreaming, with the atmosphere there. So he seems really locked in right now. And this weekend only proves and goes to show just how locked in he is.
So, Jason, which uncommitted prospects do you feel the best about?
It's so hard because I think, after talking with most of these guys, we feel pretty good about where A&M is with the great majority of them. If I had to guess one that I feel really good about, I would maybe go with Lincoln Cure. But you got Fasusi and Lamont Rogers that both came off the visit with phenomenal comments. Kalik Lockett is another one I feel really, really good about. And Lincoln, that relationship with Coach Klein and with Coach Ellsworth and and Coach Buford too. Like, he sees all of those guys and how they interact, and he mentioned specifically how much they love each other and like support each other and respect one another. And that's I don't know, that just resonated with me a little bit, but there's still a lot of work to go there. You got Oregon and Kansas State, who everybody's predicting him to choose, still on the horizon as far as visits, but A&M knocked it out of the park there with him, and I think they've really set themselves up for success there.
All right, before we hit a break, Jason, just who was the best recruiter in your opinion this weekend of the players?
Going into the weekend, I would have said Ryden, I would have said Tiger or Kelvion, but I think I got to go with Longstreet after what I've been hearing, from other recruits, Yeah, he knocked it out this week. He was super influential, did a great job, and not just being he wasn't a salesman as much as, hey, this is why I picked A&M. This is what we're trying to do, and you can be a huge part of that. Come make it happen with me. So, and that kind of thing really, I think it went a long way with several guys.
When we come back, Jason, let's get into the June 9th camp. Let's talk about the big man camp on the 11th and obviously the next official visit weekend coming up here. Right now, we are talking FBS Appliance. Their team of experts are there to help you find the appliances that are going to make your house a home. And that's what it's all about, right? They want to make sure that you get the right brand for you, the right appliance for your family lifestyle. They can find the best appliance to fit any budget out there. They've been caring for Texas since 1988, and they have the best brands that you can imagine, from Bosch to others as well. They have expert staff, trained installers to guide you through the purchase there. So they have great salespeople, right? Their sales team is going to find the right one for you. The commitment to customer satisfaction is at the core of everything that they do, whether it's understanding your appliance features, accommodating design preferences, or working within a budget. Their sales team is there to help you. They also have a great service team as well, with installation services carried out by their skilled technicians that are factory trained. At FBS Appliance, they're committed to delivering an exceptional experience from the beginning to the end. That's what they do. It's at the core of what they do. Visit any of their 8 showrooms across Texas, or find them online at factorybuilderstores.com. That website, factorybuilderstores.com, is FBS Appliance. All right, we are back here on TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. It is Recruiting Country, presented by Caprock Health System. Got Jason Howell in studio talking about all things camp from this summer. Just this past Sunday, the June 9th camp, you had several of the top in-state underclassmen. Give me a little bit of the feel of Sunday's camp, Jason.
My goodness, the talent overflow was ridiculous. It was beyond. You had to keep your head on a swivel, and you were still getting dizzy just because there were so many top guys there. There was no way to see everybody. But me and Cade and even Ryan, before he had to go do a little baseball stuff. I don't know why he's doing that, but anyways, we were all trying to keep an eye on it all, and it was a lot. It was a lot, and they had, again, just like the visit weekend, they had several of their top targets, especially in the underclassmen, 26 and 27s. A lot of them came in with offers. There were double-digit guys that came in already holding offers, and then they put 10 more on the table from what they saw. So it was, and I got a feeling there's going to be even more come out of this camp that maybe they didn't get an offer this time, at the weekend, but after some review of some of the tape and all that stuff, it wouldn't surprise me to see a few more offers from some of these guys go out. It was nuts. It was as action-packed, as talented as I've seen an A&M camp since I've been covering it, especially and particularly from the in-state prospects. This was 90% in-state prospects, and they showed strong. It was great.
Were there any offers that went out?
Yeah, like I said, they put 10 offers on the table.
10? Okay.
All but 2 went to Texas prospects. So you had quarterback Weston Nilsson from Bastrop at 27, is considered one of the top quarterbacks in the state. Already has several offers and is really doing some big things out there in Central Texas. They stayed in Central Texas for another 27. Running back Lathan Wissington, 5'11", 185-pound prospect, was a district newcomer of the year in a really strong Central Texas district. Zion Robinson, who just won a 6'8" gold medal in the high jump with a 6'8" high jump, and is starting to see his recruitment pop up. But they really one of my favorites is a kid named Peyton Porter, who I got to see at Melissa when I was covering Nigel Smith, who didn't end up at A&M, but A&M was very heavily involved there. But I got to see him, and one of my first memories is watching them go through practice. And I talk about this in the long form, but watching them go through practice, and Coach kept calling out. They were doing drill by classification, and he kept calling out freshmen. And this giant kid, kept running out there, and I was like, "There's no way that kid's a freshman." And 6'4", 190-pound. Do-it-all athlete, does some offense, some defense, and he worked out a linebacker and picked up his offer. Linebacker is where I personally love him. He's got that twitchiness that he could be an outside edge, or he showed a lot in terms of being able to cover because he is a receiver tight end guy on offense, so he kind of has some knowledge there, and he also has that athletic ability. But they really went out and did some work this weekend on the offer front.
All right, we got about 3 minutes left before I start our track spotlight here. Big man camp and the official weekend ahead. If you can give us some thoughts on that one, Jason.
All right. Well, 2 offers went out for the big man camp. Kyron Haywood was the standout to me. Just 6'1", 260-pound, 2027 out of Denton Guyer, all district as a freshman. He's a guy that we could be talking about him as one of the top prospects in the 27 class when that time comes, and one of the top defensive linemen for sure. Kadrian Redmond, just down the road from Haywood there at Lake Dallas. So he's more of He's a raw type guy, but 6'4", 290, and he did some work as well. Those were the kind of the top guy, the offers that went out there, and saw J Storm Knight, 6'6", 330 pound, size 18 shoe from Converse Judson in the 2028 class. And he moved pretty well. I'm not trying to put the young man out there too big right now and set the bar too high, but let's just say heads were turned when he walked through the door. And then this weekend, you're going to have a huge weekend, tight end, D-line, DB. You've got 3 tight ends coming into town. Last week you had Lincoln Cure. This weekend you got Keardy Armstrong. You got Nicholas Townsend, and you got, goodness gracious, Chase Lofton from Nebraska that's coming in. And then you've got DB, you got DJ Lee coming in from California. He actually arrives today. And you've got Trey McNutt coming in from Cleveland, Ohio, and you got your big boy, Mr. Rink, coming in to help lead that charge. Him and Tyler Thomas, the commits coming in to help make the push with especially with the D line. You got Zion Williams and DJ Sanders coming in this weekend, so it's going to be a big weekend. I could see some commits coming out. I didn't say that last week. I didn't think there would be any commits on the back end of the weekend. I think we could. I'm not going to do an over-under, but I wouldn't be surprised with a couple. So we'll see what happens. It should be pretty action-packed and lots of fun.
All right, Jason, great stuff as always, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Absolutely, man. Thanks.
Thank you very much. When we come back here on TexAgs Radio, our track program Spotlight brought to you by Schulte Roofing. Joe Sarah will be in studio, Julia Abel as well. Right now that we're talking Hush and Whisper, they've been having this awesome thing going on right now. When I say thing, it's a special deal that'll run through Father's Day, and Father's Day is obviously right around the corner. Come to Hush and Whisper, take a tour, have a fun experience together. Now through the June 15th, for every bottle purchase, get a polo for half off. That's right, you'll get a polo for half off when you go purchase a bottle out there. They're an innovative distillery cocktail lounge founded to defy convention and distill true grain to glass spirits. It is a cool place to go hang out. So you got family coming in this weekend, that's the place to go hang out at. I'm telling you, you'll love it. You go into the concert, before the concert, go hang out there, right? It's a lot of cool things going on there. They have white whiskey, original vodka, original gin out there. And hey, there you go. By sourcing only the finest local ingredients, committed to the highest quality of production at Hush and Whisper. They're a place you can enjoy a cocktail crafted with premium local spirits. You can reserve a tour and a tasting, or just a tasting. You can book an event for meetings, celebrations, team building. Come in for a cocktail or maybe even a mocktail. The address is 219 North Main Street. They're open Thursdays and Fridays from 2 to 11 p.m. And then on Saturday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. 219 North Main Street, hushandwhisper.com is the website, hushandwhisper.com. Random thing on the microphone. Welcome in back to TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Time for our track program spotlight, brought to you by Schulte Roofing. Got a couple friends back in studio while I'm away from studio. Joe Serra and, of course, Julia Abel joining us here on TexAgs Radio. Coaches extraordinaire. Hello, friends. How are you?
We're good. How are you?
Good, David. It's good to see you.
Wonderful. So let's just start things off with we'll talk men's side, we'll talk women's side. We'll kind of go through how this past week went. The men's finished fifth at nationals. Joe, if you want to start us off, what did you think about the performance?
It's bittersweet, right? We finished fifth on the guys' side. I think if a couple of things fall our way in the meet, a couple of things fall our way at regionals, we could have been sitting on top of the podium. I think, there's a strong effort by our guys. Our guys really, at the meet, they showed up. They really did some great things. But I think there's a little bit left to be desired there with a couple guys that really did well. Like Connor Schulman last year was a NCAA finalist in the hurdles, and he didn't make it into the meets. Just some unfortunate circumstances. And Victor Kipiego was third last year at the meet. Just didn't have a good meet for him, and had to pull out of the race. And we could have easily seen ourselves on top of the podium. So it's a little bit bittersweet, but it's a great finish for our guys. Our guys really did some nice things.
Julia, not as successful on the women's side, but they had a great season, no doubt. But tomorrow Chapman wins the national title.
Yeah, that was incredible. And Coach Joe and I think the night after she did that, we were looking through what she did last year compared to this year. She was 16th last year, and he can speak more to that because he's her direct coach along with Mario. But we were looking back at it, and she improved in every single event. There was not a single event where it was like, oh, she could have done better there. Like, she improved drastically from last year to this year, and so something that we're really proud of her for doing. If you want to add more to that, you see her every single day. I wish I did. She's incredible. But you get the privilege of coaching her directly.
I think the 1 year loan on Tamara Chapman was too short. She's a transfer in from NC State, grad student. We saw her potential, and she came in. We wish we could have had her for all 4 years because I think she could have done some really special things. Even though she capped off her career with a really, national title defining moment. It was awesome.
I think I told Joe here multiple times, like that day, and of course over the whole year, but that day I was like, I wish she was back. I wish she was back because she's truly somebody that is dynamic and changes the culture. And I mean, obviously national champion, but as far as personality goes and just team presence, she's somebody that we definitely would want back.
Well, we're not too far away from the Olympic trials that are going to be happening there. Let's just talk a little bit overall about the athletes preparing for that and how you're still involved with it.
Yeah, I think we've got a group, it's probably a dozen that are going to the U.S. trials, a couple going to Jamaica, a couple going to Canada. It's all, all over the place. But I think there's a couple people that have a really good shot at making the team. I think, the first one on the list is Sam Whitmarsh. I mean, he's going to be in contention to make the 800-meter group. He came off a second finish at NCAA's. Probably didn't run the race that Sam wanted to run, but still was, to get second in a tough field was great for him. And then I think, somebody on the men's side, somebody like Ahmad Robinson, who ran 44.7 in the meet, unfortunately got DQ'd for stepping on the line. I mean, these guys are sticklers, but it's all right. We love it. But then came back in the 4x4 relay and ran 43.2. I think that kind of effort, if he can duplicate that at the trials, is going to get him into the meet. And another guy on the men's side like JQ Scott, I think in the short hurdles he ran 13.27. Every single time the guy gets on the track for us, he gets better. To run 49.08 in the 400 hurdles out of lane 1 is an incredible effort. I don't think he's going to run that at the trials. I think he's going to go after the 110 hurdles. But I think those guys on the men's side, and then for us, I think Jermaisha Arnold is going to have a great shot in the 400-meter group to make the team. She's been getting better and better, right? She's always been for the last 2 years, been a really big player for us. And then people like Tamara is going to have a really good shot. She's got to have a good day. She's got to have a good couple of days. And then Lamara Diston's going to go down to her Jamaican trials and give it a whirl, along with Abigail Martin and Kamara Farkinson. So those are just some highlights of people that are going out there to see what they can do.
And I got a note from Sam that Carly Weiser right now is already at the U20 Nationals. Is that right?
Yeah, she headed up there a couple days ago. Yesterday with Coach De La Garza's up there with her. So we're excited to see how she does. And then a quick thing to add about JQ, if I can, is he said that he ran out of lane 1. And for those that aren't super familiar, that meant that he was the last one to make the finals. He was 9 out of 9 going into it. And one thing Coach Henry said that morning is, all I know about JQ is he's not going to finish 9th. You line him up against 8 other people and he's not finishing 9th. And the really cool thing was he finished 4th. Out of lane 1, and he was seated 9th. And so I think that's a testament to him and the whole team is they rise to the occasion. We don't fall to the occasion. And so that was really exciting for the men and women. Everybody, for the most part, stepped up. Like Coach Joe said, we had some things happen, but it's really exciting going into next year, having a lot of people back and just having that personality of the group that fights. They don't finish in their seed. They finish well above, which is exciting.
And we have about 45 seconds left. Whoever wants to take this one, just overall, how do you see how did the season go in your opinion? How it started, how it finished? Just give me your thoughts.
I think from this is my 3rd season at A&M, and I believe that every single year we've gotten better and better and back towards that contention for a national championship. The year before I got here, the girls got 2nd both indoors and outdoors, and we've been a good team on that side. I think we've got to keep growing, but I think to see where we started off on the men's side and see where we finished, we only lose, of the people that scored at the meet, we only lose one guy. It was a leadoff leg, Javon O'Brien, of the people that scored at the meet this year. And so we've got some big things to look forward to in the future here as we add some pieces. And I think we can make some noise. I think we can really do something to build off of this. So I think going into the season, I think it's always how do we fit? Where are we going to be at in June? May and June.
Awesome.
And
I got to jump in there because we had a hard break. Both of you, thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate you. We'll come back with Billy Liucci on TexAgs Radio.
Thank you.
All right, we are back here on TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We are here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. We're going to get Billy set up there in studio here in a moment, but a lot of things to get into. Billy was just at the send-off with Schloss and the guys, so we'll get his thoughts on everything happening baseball related. Billy, good morning.
Looks like you're at a send-off right now. Like they're about to. How much money do we need to send to get you back?
I feel like I'm a terrorist, right? And I have to read this. I mean, I've been captured by the terrorists, and I have to say, I love it here. They're treating me well, Billy.
I mean, I don't know. It's just like you're blending into the wall. You've got this bizarre, like, maroon stripe behind you. It's interesting.
Pretty interesting.
It's better than that. It's better than that one at home where you look like Dallas Buyers Club.
When my face was elongated. I remember that one.
Fishbowl. Send-off was cool if you like watching people walk 13 feet from the facility. Now, it was starting to rain, but it was a good crowd. I thought it was a nice crowd for a, usually the bigger crowds are when you welcome, the welcome homes, and it's a work day and it's 9:30 in the morning. And I thought it was a nice crowd. Everybody was mobbed up around where they were coming out right there where the players leave at the end of the games and go to their cars. So 2 buses there. Team came out, big round of applause. And again, like I thought it was a nice crowd. And that's what I was wondering as I was driving over, and it's kind of raining. And, you're you're talking about a weekday morning, but good turnout. People are excited. And it's good. Players and coaches got to see that.
And I understand that Schloss mentioned about Shane Sadeo. It looks like he is going to be done for the year, as we expected. But that all being said, the injury is not as severe as they once thought.
Yeah. Where did he say? I didn't even. I knew about that last night. I didn't know, when did he say that?
At some point today, he said it. I saw it on Twitter a few minutes ago. I also saw that TexAgs tweeted about Braden Montgomery had surgery this morning in North Carolina. Will join Omaha. Will join the Aggies in Omaha here in a few days.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. And I told you about Braden. Like, he did not want to miss this weekend. I think, he said, "I'm not leaving. My leg's broken. I'm not leaving. I'm staying in this dugout the rest of the game. And then I'm going to be there Sunday, and if I have to be there Monday, damn it, I'm going to be there Monday too." So he wanted to be there for it, and he's obviously, I know I had talked to him, and he said he's ready for Omaha. And by the way, his 3rd trip, and this team's not there without him. That injury and him not being able to play in Omaha doesn't change the fact that this team's not in Omaha without him. There's no question about it. So 3 times for him. What an amazing college career. And, man, you would have loved to have had his experience out there on the field, his game experience. He's taken, I don't know how many at-bats there. Stanford might have gone 0-2 last year, but I know the year before, I think they were in it a little longer. I remember they played Auburn. I think I think Arkansas maybe they had an epic game with. So he's gotten a ton of at-bats there. That experience would have been awesome to have in the lineup, but it's also going to be pretty significant to have in the team hotel, in the dugout during games, in the clubhouse. I mean, that's going to pay off big dividends. And one thing I haven't really heard us talk about much is you're going to start a guy in one of these 2 games that I think some of us forget. Like, Ryan Prager started an elimination game in Omaha as a freshman a couple of years ago. So, your ace pitcher has Omaha experience, and that could end up being, worth its weight in gold when A&M's trying to win a game, whether it be game 1, game 2. Who knows how valuable that's going to be to have a guy that's gone out there, taken that mound, and he's done so in an elimination game. And I thought actually fared pretty well. I think he gave up it might have been first inning runs. Little guy for OU hit a home run, but he settled in. I thought had a good outing there early on in Omaha.
Billy Liucci in studio. I'm here on the road, TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. I want to go back to something you said there because I think two things can be true, Billy. They do not get to Omaha without Braden Montgomery, but they are still very capable without Braden Montgomery of getting hot and competing and winning a national championship because of the depth that they have.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. And here's one thing to think of, too. And by the way, the Sadeo thing's huge. If now you can have him, it doesn't look like something that's going to keep him out next year. That's massive for this baseball program because he has a chance to be one of your absolute studs on the bump next year. You know, that's a big difference, you know, to have him or not have him in terms of your staff as a whole, how you attack the portal here this summer. So it's a big deal to A, find that out, and B, get good news on that front. Look, Texas A&M just won a super regional without Braden and Sadeo. Okay, because they had Sadeo for not even an inning, and they had Braden Montgomery for one at-bat in that whole series. And they won a super regional without them. So they can, you're right, they can get it done. And they scored 25 runs in 2 games against a team that in 3 games in their regional, I believe it was 3, allowed like, I think 10 runs or something like that. And they scored 25 on that squad in 2 games. And they didn't do it. You know, we always think one of the things we were really excited about them playing at home is like, hey, this team turns Bluebell Park into a launching pad. All the home runs this year, all that, they hit 2 home runs in 2 games total. I think Oregon hit 5 or 6. The Aggies hit 2. They did it with up and down the lineup. Most of the guys, damn near all of them, contributing. They did it with guys not named, and Jace did a great job of getting on base all weekend, but they did it with guys not named Grahovic, Lavalette, and Montgomery carrying the load. And again, they did it with the bat. They did it with plate discipline. Would they have 8 walks, 9 walks in the first game, and then we know it. That legendary 7th inning with the plate discipline. So they did it in kind of every facet without relying on the home run ball, which is, I think that might be their key. I'm not saying they're not going to go hit a few bombs the longer they get to play over there. We act like nobody can hit home runs in that ballpark, but yet we see it every year. So it's not that, but the way they beat Oregon at the plate and what they did is I think it's also their winning formula coming up next week, at the end of this week and next week.
Well, Billy, look, this is going to sound homerish and maroon goggles, but Shane Sadeo not being there is a huge loss, no doubt. But he did not emerge as a starting pitcher for this team until recently, over the last month, right? So what I'm saying is there were moments where Tanner Jones had to carry the torch, and Justin Lampkin has had his moments. For this team to win a College World Series, those guys are going to have to get back to some of their best moments this year, which we have seen against top competition.
Yeah, you've seen who was it that Lampkin was nails against in a couple of SEC opponents in Game 3 where he was really good. And heading into the season, you're looking at it going, man, Prager, Sadeo, Lampkin, unless any of these portal guys come in and beat him out. You had, you have a freshman pitcher that has special stuff that they still have huge plans for. But so you didn't really know, but kind of in the back of your mind, you were going, this could be Sadeo, Lampkin, Prager. You know, you knew what you had in Prager, but Sadeo and Lampkin were. Remember, the reason that pitching staff had that massive turnaround at the end of last season, you didn't have Prager at that time. That had a ton to do. It had to do with Wansing, who unfortunately was injured this year, and a lot to do with Sadeo and Lampkin. Now, this year, the massive turnaround story has been Cortez, and the comeback story has been Prager. But there's still time for somebody to make a little bit of this story about them. And all it takes, Nuño, as you know, is one terrific start. And like you said, we've seen it in SEC play from Tanner Jones. We've seen it in SEC play multiple times from Lampkin. So they just need to get right. And I thought Jones did all right the other day. He got them into some valuable work that they desperately needed against Oregon. Caden Wilson's performance in that one too, like if he can build on that, because we know what his stuff looks like, but that's got to be a confidence builder. You go in there in that game and you get out of a bases loaded jam with no outs in a super regional with your team literally on the ropes, covered up. You're hoping the ref doesn't stop it. And then what Caden did was basically just an absolute haymaker, to kind of turn the tide there or stem the tide, get you to that next round. And then, in the seventh, they had the 7th round knockout if you want to go in boxing terms. But somebody and multiple people will have to step up. They're not going to go on a deep run with Prager, Cortez, and Aschenbeck, no matter how good they are. Somewhere in between, somebody's got to step up. And I think, the guy most likely to do that will be Lampkin.
Yeah, and Billy, I think the mental fortitude that this team has shown this year, look, they haven't been underdogs. They've been a top 5 team pretty much the entire season. But the fact that they have been able to weather the injuries, some bad starts, the fact that they know they can do it, and I don't think they played their best. They had an incredible 7th inning, no doubt, but there's still room for growth from what we've seen from this team so far.
Oh yeah, I mean, they're getting back. I think they're playing. Look, somebody was telling me, man, and they're right. They're not wrong, and everybody's talking about it. Actually, Florida's one of the hottest teams in college baseball right now. Tennessee's the best team. And, we're going through it. But look, Tennessee lost a game to Evansville where they were forced to play Game 3. They lost to Evansville at home. Florida did not run through this thing undefeated. They had to come through the losers bracket of their regional up in Stillwater. A&M's the team that went 5-0 and ran through it. And it wasn't without challenge. But they beat Texas. They beat a really strong Louisiana team. They beat the brakes off of them. They hit 5 home runs. It was 9-1 or 2 at one point. They beat Texas in one of the most intense games of this postseason in terms of just both sides wanting it that bad. And they won a game, in 11 innings. They swept Oregon. They swept a team that kind of came rolling in out of a regional as a lower seed, and they did what Tennessee couldn't do. They did what Georgia couldn't do, which is advance. They did what a lot of teams were unable to do, which is win, close it out in 2 games. And they had to come from behind twice, and they had to weather the most devastating of injuries, and then they had to weather another devastating injury, and they did it with their starting pitchers combining for less than 3 innings. So there was a ton of adversity, but you know what they didn't do? They never lost a game, and they were 5-0. So they're rolling into this thing too. And I think if you look at their last 3 games, how many runs have they scored, David? LBJ really locked them up in that Texas game, and then they've scored 9? They've scored 9, 10, and 15 in their last 3 games. So, again, and 2 of those games were without Braden Montgomery. But, I think they're rolling in there with a ton of confidence up and down the lineup as a team. And I just know these guys, and obviously the coaching staff, they've been there, done that. When you look at Slosh and Nolan Cain, his history at LSU and now A&M, you look at Slosh, this is his 7th trip. Mike Early's been there, done that. Really cool thing just talking to Max Weiner where he's like, dude, this was the most fun experience I've ever had on a baseball field. This was incredible. So he's new to it, but he's with us. That guy's been in the bigs. He's been, so everyone and those players believe they can win. Nuño. They're not. I know it's cliche, but you're wrong if you don't think teams have reached Omaha and exhale and are happy to be there. If you think, sure, they can say it. Yeah, we want to win. Everybody wants to win it. But this team truly believes they can go in there and in 10 days or whatever, be national champs. They believe it. They want it in the worst way. And they understand they're there with a shot to do it. And they know that they can do it. It's not like a hope. It's not like, man, if we could just pull off this upset, we're capable. No, they know they can win the whole thing, and they are very hungry to do so.
Billy, what about the matchup with Florida, a team that has found their way? They're obviously one of the hottest teams in baseball. Everybody at this level is pretty hot because you have to win to get to this point. But this is one of this early series that A&M lost on the road, and they had a little hiccup towards the end of SEC play. This was the first one to start off the year. What do you think about the matchup itself?
I think I think that one's anybody's game, just like that series was when they were both playing really good baseball. I think, A&M went on the road there, and did they score the same amount of runs, or A&M outscored them by a run? But whatever it was, and it was 3 very close games, and I think the fourth game will be the same way. I think, they're hot, David, but they, it's much like A&M, where you say, look, they beat Oregon in 2 games, but they were both really close baseball games. Or the second one certainly was. And, by the way, they won by 6. The first one was they won by 4. They beat that team by 10 runs. Florida was in at least 1, if not 2, dogfights with Oak State. They lost a game in that regional. That second Clemson game was absolutely epic. I think they won the first one 10-7 or something like that. But that second game was a classic of this postseason so far, right there with a couple of these games the Aggies play. But that game against Clemson, I don't know how much you watched of it. That was unbelievable. You had huge home run by Florida to kind of seem to put it away, and then the 9th inning 3-run 2-out bomb by Clemson to tie it. You had one of the greatest catches you'll ever see in baseball to save the game for Clemson. Then they take a lead, and they're doing that whole thing where they're the visiting team at home, and then Florida walks them off. So, and that was with Cags pitching, and that was a high-scoring game. So I think both teams, if they're swinging the bats well, are trouble for the opposing pitcher. And I don't care if it's Cags, if it's Prager, if it's whoever, both those lineups are pretty damn scary. And there's power, but there's also guys up and down the lineup that can just get on base. I think Florida it'd be interesting if A&M were to play Florida and then Kentucky. Whether that's win-lose, or, whether that's win or lose this first game, especially if they win and you go from the Gators to Kentucky, who's a team they haven't played, that's a pretty big contrast in style, in my opinion. You're going to a Kentucky team that runs. You're going to a Kentucky team that'll bunt. That they've got some power, but they certainly don't rely on it like Florida does. And I think that'll be a night and day difference for A&M. That's the challenge of not only this series, every year the College World Series, but also I think in particular this bracket. Kentucky to me is a little bit of the outlier. We watched NC State kind of slug their way through Georgia and certainly outslug Georgia. I mean, those guys are not going to cover off the ball. And we know what we know about Florida, especially lately. And then, we know what A&M likes to do. Kentucky's kind of the outlier there. So it'll be interesting to see how this side of the bracket shakes out.
What do you think about it, though? Because you look at both sides, I can make an argument that this is the way I want to go, but you're probably taking on 2 SEC teams. I mean, look, NC State is hot.
Yeah, I would not rule them out by any stretch.
No way, not the way they're playing. What side of the bracket do you think has, Tennessee's got an interesting road too?
Well, in Tennessee, the team that certainly, I still think Tennessee is the best team in it, but I also think they're a lot better playing at home, even though they had a real strong showing in the SEC tournament there, obviously winning it. But I think I've said for a few weeks, I think Tennessee is the best team in it, but North Carolina has the mojo. North Carolina has been winning all these walk-off games, and they certainly have, they remind me a little bit of like the Ole Miss and not that they squeaked in, but I mean, they just have that feel and that mojo about them right now. No matter how many close games they play, they keep figuring out how to win. So that one will be. That's the other team in that side of the bracket that I'm kind of keeping the closest eye on. It's not, not to say you're writing off Virginia or Florida State, but I think North Carolina is a team that's the biggest threat to Tennessee. But in game one against Florida State, that'll be an interesting one to watch because the Seminoles did look strong, in their super regional.
Yep. Agreed. Let's hit a break here, Billy. We'll get a little bit more baseball in. I got a couple football questions to ask you before we welcome in Bronny and Zane on the road trip crew. We'll hit a break right now. Milliken Reserve Time, farm-to-table community in College Station. They got homes, they got trails, they got wide open spaces, and their mission is to build a healthy community around nature, and they've done that by dedicating their time to the conservation of a healthy community. They have respect for that native landscape and that wildlife. 2,600 acres of open space, farms, 30 miles of trails, and homes. They want to connect families to nature and to each other. You should go out there and enjoy a nice walk. You can go hiking. You can go biking. You can go canoeing. You can go fishing. You can do it all at Milliken Reserve. They have a wide variety of native species that find their homes there in those beautiful preserved woods. They have a natural setting for people to connect and come together. The website is millikenreserve.com. Again, that website, millikenreserve.com. Go check it out. Disastrous situation ensuing here in Florida. My AirPods won't charge, so that means I got to listen to people yell in the background of the car when I'm driving. That's unfortunate. It's TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We are here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Billy is in studio, but I don't think his headphones are on, so I'm going to check in with Callie Gardner to see if we can get a text message or two as Billy gets himself ready for the segment. Callie, what do you have for us? That's good. That was good. Kate, could that have gone any better? That's great. Nobody responding. Look who it is.
I thought he's talking
Billy.
to Callie. I heard you say something to Callie about a text.
Yep. Everybody ignore me. All
Can
good.
you hear me now?
Hey, let's talk a little football. So
This is what happens, Nuño, when you're in
from the
Jupiter,
schedule that was released.
Florida.
Pardon?
This is what happens when you're in Jupiter, Florida. Sometimes it doesn't go flawlessly, although that was actually my fault.
Would you like to join me in Jupiter? No, you're going to Omaha.
Yeah, I'm going to Omaha. But not till Sunday, because the guy that was playing, I kind of made plans a long time ago with people flying in from the West Coast and for this weekend. So got to do the George Parker Saturday. I'll be heading to Omaha Sunday and staying as long as we need to.
Hopefully it's a long stay. Billy, any takeaways from the scheduled times that were released yesterday for football? Not really.
You know me, man. That kind of crap. Like, here's one takeaway. Okay. I guess I had two. South Carolina game gets tougher. You know, all of a sudden you're going there at night. We know what playing in Columbia at night. That is, to me, that's one of the bigger swing environments. People talk about Kyle Field. 11 a.m. versus 2:30 versus 7. Everybody would rather play at night in college football. We get it. We don't need to talk about it. We don't need to talk about every environment being so much tougher at night than it is during the day. We actually do get it. Okay? It's a beatdown. All 16 of them are tougher at night. Okay? Can we agree with that? You look like you don't agree. Can we agree on that? I think that's factual. Okay? Did you see Bluebell Park the other night versus the day game? It is what it is. It's college sports, outdoors especially. I guess it doesn't matter in college basketball. But there are certain programs, I think the lesser teams, and sometimes that's been A&M, where they're not as good. Bama, you come in here, you do not want a night kickoff against an A&M team that's dropped 2 in a row and their fans might otherwise be reeling or late arriving for an early game or the heat. You don't want a night game at Kyle Field in 2021 after they lost to Arkansas and Mississippi State. Texas A&M, or you don't want a night game at South Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina, or Columbia, Missouri, or not that they stink or anything, but Kentucky, these teams that are outside the dominant teams. I think the difference is more significant. So I think that one jumped up in degree of difficulty. You knew Auburn, they were going to cling to Auburn and not make a decision on that one yet. And that's going to be, at some way or the other, it's going to be played in the dark. It's either going to finish in the dark or it's going to start at night. And then you knew the Texas game wasn't going to be early. So the only two things that stood out to me were that and the Missouri game here being the early game. That's one where, yeah, you would have preferred it to be later. That's going to be a big game. But I don't think it's going to matter because I think Texas A&M hopefully has no more than one loss at that time out of Arkansas, at Florida, and Notre Dame, and maybe they've won those 3 games. But either way, whether that's a one-loss A&M team or a no-loss A&M team, you look at Missouri's schedule, they're probably coming in here undefeated. They're probably coming in here undefeated and in the top 10. So whether that's an early game or a night game, I think that early in the season, I think A&M will have enough to play for. where the crowd should be pretty raucous here at Kyle Field and tough, whether that game's with the sun up or sun down.
Billy, you joining us on Friday?
Yes, sir. I'm going to keep talking, actually.
I appreciate you.
No. We're going to keep going here for a minute.
Oh, let's keep
You've
going.
already talked to those yahoos that all y'all are going to talk about is like what music they're listening to. So you got to.
I was going to ask some baseball questions, but you told me 30 minutes, so I was trying to be
giving you a hard
respectful of your
time.
time. But
I'm giving you a hard time.
I'll go an hour.
No. I have a lunch to go to. I changed my mind. I'm sorry, breakfast. I mean, it's Seth's birthday.
Well, I've changed my mind. I want you to stay for 5 minutes longer.
Ask me a question, then. Let's go. Give me just 2 questions. It's 10:32. Those yahoos are coming on at 10:35. They probably need a break from each other. And why don't you ask Katie or Jamie something instead of those 2 buffoons?
No, I think that would be better. I just want. I made a comment
by the
earlier
way,
in the program.
I've dubbed that car
I feel,
with Brawny, and I've dubbed that car the gas wagon. So it's a traveling gas wagon, and there's dual meaning to that. There's the hot air coming out of his mouth when he talks, and then there's the other obvious meaning.
But at least you didn't have to worry about how low the chair was today when you got in there.
That's true. That's true.
Hey, so it kind of goes back to something you were saying there, but it was a topic that I brought up with OB earlier in the program about to me, the month of September is going to be so critical in how this season plays out because of the Notre Dame game, because of the Florida game, because of the Arkansas game at the end of the month. When you think of those 3, just the month of September itself, how that could play a part in what the entire season does feel like. If we're talking about a team that's on the outside of potentially being in the conversation for the playoffs, or teams still trying to struggle to be 7-5.
Yeah, I mean, it starts obviously with Notre Dame. That's one of the biggest swing games of the. I think Notre Dame and Florida. If you go through that season, I think those are 2 of my 4 swing games I'm looking at in terms of that really can take it dramatically one way or the other. Because we know Arkansas is a tough game. It is every year, no matter what. And I think you add in Bobby Petrino this year, and it gets tougher. But A&M is beating Arkansas at 11 out of 12. They should beat Arkansas. They should. Doesn't guarantee anything, but they should. Notre Dame at home and at Florida. If Texas A&M's 2-0 in those games, like I said, you might be hosting an unbeaten and number 7 or 8 ranked Missouri team at home. And again, I know Missouri is good, but if you're an unbeaten A&M team playing at home in October against a non-national title contender, I mean, not Alabama, not Georgia, not Ohio State, like you're going to be probably favored in that game at home. And so, yeah, you come through September unscathed, and all of a sudden you're a bona fide playoff contender because people will look at the rest of that schedule and they don't see Georgia, and they don't see Alabama, and they don't see Ole Miss, and they see Mizzou at home and Texas at home and LSU at home, and they're going, throw in an Auburn, and you're going, yeah, if A&M went 2-2 in those 4 games, are they in the playoff? So, yeah, that September is really significant because then you're looking at it again, like your 3 toughest games the rest of the way, and I would throw Auburn into that too. 3 of your 4 left are at Kyle Field, and you've got momentum, and you should only get better. So it's a tall order, David. It really is, and I think we're underestimating road trips to Florida and Auburn. I think those are really, really tough football games. Really tough football games. But, yeah, if they come out of September unscathed, and they're all of a sudden one of these teams that's thrust themselves into the conversation in year 1 under Mike Elko. And speaking of that car, I do know this much. I know the people in it, just from conversations, Nuño, are very excited and kind of feeling better about their situation than had you or Olin been driving. I'm just saying, that's the buzz around the office. I know. You just made a face like that surprised you. Like, how dare they?
Well,
that's kind of what they said.
So Katie and Richard are the ones that would be under attack in this conversation. Jamie's been in my, no, Jamie's definitely part. Jamie, definitely.
Yep.
Yeah. I probably drive too slow for them.
That's what I'm assuming.
That's
not what it is.
Music?
No. There's
Too
just
fast.
an attention to the road thing going on there with the two of y'all that scares them, let's just say.
Texting and driving?
No, I don't know what it is. I haven't asked for specifics, but you guys worry them. Maybe they're age discriminating. You can ask them. Yeah. Now, I'm leaving myself out of this because we know no one would want me doing it, but I haven't done it, so they haven't had to experience that. So I'm not putting myself above you. I would actually not volunteer to drive.
Yeah, I can see. There's a difference.
Yeah, well, you can only see when you're watching the road, but anyway.
Thank you, Billy.
I'm just telling
Appreciate
you. I know this shocks you, but you can ask them if you scare them driving. That's a good opener for the guys. I'll be listening.
All right. I will certainly ask them that. Thanks for your time, buddy.
All right, buddy. Have fun.
All right. I hope I can read this script now. Goodness gracious. Schulte Roofing, an award-winning roofing company that provides industrial, commercial, and residential services to Belleville, Brenham, Bryan-College Station, Conroe, Montgomery, Navasota, San Antonio, and the Woodlands, and, of course, the surrounding counties. Schulte Roofing is the home of the Bulletproof Roof Guarantee, the industry's absolute best roofing system, roof installation warranty, and 100% satisfaction guarantee or your money back. Since their humble beginnings in 1994, they are led by their commitment to excellence, and they've been doing it for a long time. They're the place that people call in this area and beyond. There's no doubt about that. Top 100 roofing company in the world. Call them up, 1-800-4ROOF. That number is 1-800-4ROOF, or you can go to their website, schulteroofing.com. That is schulteroofing.com. All right, we're back here on TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Our Omaha crew is on their way to Omaha. Where are you guys? Where's everybody?
All right, Poppy, it's just me this time, and we have just crossed the border into Kansas about 15 miles ago, so we should be coming into Wichita within the next 30 minutes or so, and then onto the Kansas Turnpike. So it's been a lot of fun up I-35 this morning.
By any chance, were you listening to the previous segment?
No, sir. What I missed.
Good. No, I just, this is good. We're going to have a little conversation here, Richard. My understanding.
Well, here's the deal, Nuño, is we were getting crunk to a bunch of different music. Bronny's playing his entire music library on shuffle. So we've been going from Texas country to Houston rap and hip hop to all sorts of stuff.
Well,
we've been listening to that over the show, so I apologize to you, sir.
No, it's okay. It's okay because my feelings were hurt earlier because I was told, and there's only 3 of you that could have said this, and I'm going to list them in order of how I think it went down, that apparently you guys are scared to ride with Olin and myself. Now, I understand Olin because I've been in near accidents with Olin on several occasions and a speeding ticket. The me part, I understand I drive like a grandma at times, but not paying attention to the road, that one kind of caught me off guard.
Look, brother, the Olin thing, absolutely. And for you, I know that night when we landed at Bergstrom Airport in Austin, coming back from Atlanta, and you drove us back to College Station, that was a little, hit and miss, a little iffy, a little touch and go there, because you were all over the road that night.
Were there near accidents? Was I texting? Was that the night that
you were definitely on your phone. There weren't any near accidents because there was nobody else on the road, but you were just all over lane to lane kind of thing.
Okay.
It happens. It happens.
I would like for you to ask the group, Katie, especially who's been with me the most recent, if she felt safe, because I felt that the way Billy described it was the consensus was be careful with Nuño.
Hey, Katie, did you feel safe driving with Nuño when y'all went to Memphis? She said yeah.
Okay, well then that's the final word. We'll leave it at that.
She said yeah. Hey, I'm proud of you for growing as a driver since I last rode with you 2 years ago. So.
Yep, and you'll never ride with me again.
Olin, I can't say the same thing for OB.
Hey,
never again.
What are your thoughts on the Game 2 starter? Or, give me Game 1, Game 2, because the feeling is Prager, but I don't think that's been officially announced. We don't know, but how do you think 1 and 2 go?
I don't know, right? Obviously, Brian Prager would be my best bet to be the starter for Saturday night against Florida, just because he's been your ace. He's been your Friday night guy and started every single first game of a weekend all year long, except for the SEC tournament. Obviously, he wasn't going to pitch on short rest, and then the regional where you had the luxury of pitching back against Grambling. But no, it hasn't been announced. We'll probably get the answer from Coach Schlossnagle tomorrow during Texas A&M's pre-Men's College World Series media availability. But there could be some sort of matchup or something that the coaching staff wants to exploit against the Gators. There could be different things that they're looking at, but as of right now, 10:45 on Wednesday morning, I still expect it to be Ryan Prager on Saturday evening.
One of the things we've been talking about is that there's obvious, I don't know if fear is the right word, but there's good reason to worry about not having Shane Sadeo, right? There's obvious good reason. But Justin Lampkin has been a quality pitcher for this team, as has Tanner Jones. They just haven't done it recently a bunch, but they have shown their moments.
Say that again, please.
Just that both Lampkin and Tanner Jones have, even though they haven't been at their best recently, they have shown moments of brilliance this year.
Absolutely. Justin Lampkin in that Sunday start against Mississippi State, he was brilliant in that one. I think it was 7 1/3. He helped them win that series, and if you remember, that's really where the Aggies took off, right? And they began their run through the SEC, and he was the SEC pitcher of the week. So we know he has it in it. He was SEC all SEC tournament team as a freshman 2 years ago, or last year. So he's definitely got it in him. And then Tanner Jones, look at what he did against Vanderbilt a couple months ago. Now, Vanderbilt ended up not being the team we thought they were back then, but Tanner Jones still has the ability to go out and beat SEC caliber lineups. And he's going to, the Aggies are obviously going to face an SEC caliber lineup in the first game and possibly the second game with either Kentucky or NC State on this side of the bracket as well. So those two dudes are going to have to get key outs and get through a lot of innings, help this Aggie bullpen. I still think, and I've said this for weeks on end, that Justin Lampkin's going to be an X factor for this ball club if they are going to end up winning the national championship. And that was before Shane Tadeo went down last weekend. So I still think that Justin Lampkin's got something special in him. I hope we get to see it at some point in Omaha. And, yeah.
Hey, Richard, before I let you go, how do you think rest plays a part in this? Because there aren't back-to-backs, right? There is time to regroup in the College World Series.
Well, it definitely allows you to use your bullpen a little differently, right? Because think about, we were going back in the season and we were asking Schlossnagle about his ideal usage of Evan Ashenbeck, right? Obviously, you don't want to ever pitch him when you're trailing in a game, but if you're tied or leading on Saturday, you can go ahead and fire that bullet and lock down win number one. And I heard Bronny earlier this morning, because he was sitting right next to me, say that, outside of the second game of the winner's bracket of a regional and game one of a super regional, your first game in Omaha is probably the most important game of the year. I completely agree with that. So it's, have your best bullets ready to fire, and Evan Ashenbeck certainly that. And then Chris Cortez, he had a longer appearance than usual on Saturday because of the short start from Prager. So, ideally you don't want him to have to throw 80 pitches. You can get him out, throw a couple innings and have him ready to go on a day's rest too. But yeah, it gives you the luxury of using those two weapons more frequently than you would in a regional setting or a super regional setting. And I think that plays into the Aggies' favor, because those are two of the best bullpen arms that are going to be here in Omaha. And obviously there are going to be a lot of great pitchers here because it's the best 8 teams, the only 8 teams still standing. So, yeah, I like the opportunity to get those guys some rest and be able to use them multiple times in back-to-back games because of that one day off you have.
All right, you guys drive safe the rest of the way. We'll catch up with you tomorrow, all right?
Perfect. We're pulling into a Love's travel stop now on I-35. We're going to get some lunch, and then we'll be back on the road here in a few minutes.
All right, safe travels. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Poppy.
Later, buddy. That is Richard Zane there on the hotline as he's on his way to Omaha with Bronny, Katie, and Jamie. All right, we'll hit a break here. We'll come back with some final thoughts on TexAgs Radio. Right now, though, let's talk about our good friends at Rollo Insurance. Jason, Jackson, the team over there. They're fantastic. Keith is great there. He's been there forever. Got Morgan, who's been there forever. They're just a good crew. And when you go to Rollo Insurance or you reach out to Rollo Insurance, just know that they're going to take care of you and they're going to find the right insurance situation for you, whatever that may be. I talk about my situation with my boys about to start driving. Got to make sure we get them in the best insurance possible, but also, is it going to cost me an arm and a leg? Well, yes, because of their age, but they're going to find me the best suitable situation for us. That's what they do at Rollo Insurance. They are local. They are hyper local, by the way. You can find their headquarters on Highway 6 in College Station, but they're a Texas brand. You can find them all over Texas, 53 offices in the great state of Texas. You can also find them in other areas. But again, they are here in town in College Station and in Bryan in the Brazos Valley. You'll find them all over the place. Proud supporter of Aggie Athletics. The difference is real with our friends there at Rollo Insurance. The phone number for Rollo Insurance, 888-44-ROLLO. That number is, again, 888-44-ROLLO, or go to rolloinsurance.com. That is rolloinsurance.com. All right, guys, it's time to end the day with Double Dave's. Caller number 12 at 979-693-1150 will hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave. They've been serving Aggie Land since 1984 with your favorite pizza and, of course, those world-famous pepperoni rolls. Reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click on doubledaves.com and your favorites are on their way. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Callie Gardner is there. Callie, give us some closing thoughts here in the final minute and a half of the program.
Yeah, well, I wanted to touch on this really fast. South Carolina hired a new head baseball coach in Paul Maneri, and he was at LSU before, and then he took some time off. But it's kind of interesting to see the coaching carousel in full effect now that there's only 8 teams left playing in college baseball. And as the transfer portal is active, so is that coaching rotation. So just keeping an eye on all the job openings, but it's very interesting to see that new hire over there in South Carolina.
So many quality coaches in the SEC. A guy who was really good before coming back and now going to South Carolina. All right, Callie, continue on.
Yeah, and then just some stuff about Wyatt Hensler. He led the Ivy League or the Penn Quakers in so many categories in hits, runs, doubles, total bases, home runs, and RBIs. He is their all-time leader in every single one of those categories, which is just really impressive that he could even hold one of those as much as all 6 of them. So just really excited to see him in the Maroon and White next year and maybe see him and Jackson Appel back together. So we'll see.
Yeah, let's hope so. Thank you very much, Callie. Great work as always. Appreciate your time. All right, friends. It's going to do it for TexAgs. We had some good guests on the show. Billy was on the show, obviously. We had Kendall. No, we didn't have Kendall. We'll have Kendall tomorrow. Thank you. Jason Howell was good. We had our track spotlight. Olin was okay. Just kidding, OB. All right, that's going to do it for TexAgs Radio on a Wednesday. We'll see you all mañana.